Listen, I want to bring a subject on. Of course, it's are you a victim of anxiety? Somebody that's feeling powerless. Let's talk about some solutions on that, Gregory. Do you just get sick randomly? Do people just get sick randomly?
Well, we have to look at the power of our word. This is so powerful. There's something about, everybody understands, maybe you have an unconscious mind and you have a conscious mind. Your unconscious mind actually runs you. But here's the caveat: it needs a conscious decision in order for it to function. And then it needs repetition in order to make a habit. So here's a repetition that can create illness. I'm sick of this. You just commanded your unconscious mind to get sick every time this particular thing happens. Now, we said, you heard, thoughts create, right?
Yes.
So if thoughts create, what do we just do? So I tell people to say, well, I'm well of this. That sounds like a very simple tool to use, but it works. It works. Now, let's look at something. Let's say you're going to a potluck dinner, and you're the one bringing the main dish, but you're feeling kind of down. Your immune system's down. You maybe have overworked yourself. You're kind of tired, and so your body needs some rest. But you're bringing, the main dish, so you say, "Well, I've got to go." Okay. So you get to the party and you notice when the door opens, everybody's sniffling and sneezing and things, and you have a choice right at that moment. You could say, I committed to bring this main dish. I'm going to leave it with you. I've got to go home and rest. My immune system's down, you see, so why would I want to walk into a germ-rich environment? Okay, to where I could exchange or collect at that point some of those germs. Somebody could sneeze and my immune system's not handling it. It isn't that they sneezed on me that caused it, it's that my immune system is down. Do you see?
Yeah.
So I'm choosing health by choosing to go back home. Or I could choose the chance of illness by walking into that environment. Did I just catch that cold? No. In that moment I created it.
Yeah.
You see how it's subtle, but it's there. I mean, that's what happens. We do it. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that means just how powerful is self-talk then?
It is the power. I mean, I tease with the idea, okay, thoughts are things. We are the creator of things. I think, well, I'm going to build a house. I used to build a lot of houses. And they said, well, you build a house. I said, yeah. I hire the subcontractors. I buy the material. I do some of the work myself. I orchestrate the whole thing. And I said, well, yeah. They said, of course, you did all those things. I said, yes, but none of that would have happened if I hadn't had the thought to do it. I looked at the empty lot. I see a house there. I say, I'm going to build a house there. This is creation, okay, at its base level. Okay, so if I didn't understand that I could create a house there or know that I could do it by assessing and stating and declaring that I was going to, it just wouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not rocket science. It's just everyday work. We talk about, like I was teasing, we were laughing when we first came on. I asked people, what do you really want? Oh, I want world peace, and I want, all these things. And I said, well, this isn't a Miss America contest. This is like, let's let the rubber hit the road. How do you do peace? How is it that you get along with other people, especially if they have dissenting views? How can you have a nonviolent communication? How is it that you can affect that since your thoughts create? That makes sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what? I keep reading sometimes or hearing sometimes they're all waiting for the government to do something, right?
Well, here's let's take that right to the extreme. I've made mistakes, and by the way, it's the government's fault. And if it's not theirs, it's yours.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking responsibility for my actions in that kind of conversation. It's like when, what was it? Where was that country where all the dikes broke? Everybody got flooded. I think it was in the Gulf. Well, it was in the United States in the Gulf, and they had that
Too many
they
keep
had
track of.
cities built below sea level. They knew the dikes were failing, but people stayed there, and they chose to stay there. Now you got to hear that they chose to stay there. Sure enough, they broke. Everybody gets flooded. And then they expect the government to come and bail them out. They can't. There's too much there to do. It can't happen like that. So what would you do? I would say to you, well, just like not walking into that house full of people who are sniffling and coughing when your immune system's down, I would move out before the flood occurs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm choosing whether or not to live in a toxic environment or not. It's a choice. Okay? And that toxicity starts inside someplace. It's not outside. Just like I say, oh, I realize I worked really hard this week. I had some extra chores I had to do. Something came up. I was working hard again. I got caught in the rain. So my immune system is down. My body had a lot to work on. Okay. Now I can choose to step into an environment that now could overcome my body because my immune system's down, or I could choose to rest and be on my own. Mm-hmm. So I'm cleaning up the toxicity in my mind by choosing what it is that I want rather than being a victim and saying, well, I either didn't make a choice and I let somebody else make it. Let's go back to the door where I'm bringing the potluck. They say, oh, come on in. Don't worry about it. You'll be okay. Well, and if I say, all right, I have just given away my power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've given away my ability to be well. What, you going to say something, Shobha?
This is an example. A friend of mine, she kept saying, her work situation, that I'm walking into a prison. And I said, oh, no, don't use those words. I said, oh, well, it's a life sentence, a death sentence. So all these words.
I just wanted to add it. And obviously, I know a lot of people like that too. And for a lifetime, they will not see the connection that their words are causing their pain.
Yeah. I think I bring it to a real head. I've take people firewalking, and we walk on coals. We measured them. They get up to like 1,400 degrees. Now, 200, 300 degrees, you get a 4th degree burn. There's the bottom of your foot. It doesn't look too much different than that, right?
Yeah.
In terms of the protection and so on.
Yes.
And it's like, if you're doing a job, this is the metaphor. So if you're one with yourself, about to walk across the coals, there's a lot of reasons that will make it a pleasurable experience, and there's a lot of reasons that will make it not so pleasurable. What will make it pleasurable is honoring what's true for you. For example, I've led a firewalk, and it wasn't true for me to walk. I didn't walk, and I'm the leader. And it turned out I learned something. It's like, it was a strange thing. The people that knew they should walk didn't get burned, and the people that knew they shouldn't didn't get burned. Okay? They listened to their inner consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay? And then there was another time I was raking the coals out, and somebody had brought me cherry wood instead of the usual oak, and it burned a lot hotter. And my children were there and some of their friends, and I thought, oh boy, I'm going to kill everybody today. and I'm raking the coals, and I'm thinking, this is terrible. I said, I can't even see because the heat was so much, and I'm losing hair on my arms and stuff. and I looked down, and I was standing in it.
Wow.
You see, now it taught me something about where does the fear come from and where is the truth coming from within me. Okay, so
Yeah.
I have my heart giving me a simple truth. I'm one with the fire, and I have my brain saying, "Oh, the world's going to burn, and we're all going to die."
So that comes to the question: where does that self-talk come from? That negative
Oh,
self-talk?
we are so programmed. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Look at all the ads on TV. Look at what sells. It's like the negative aspect of things sells. We're trained, okay? We are so trained. We are trained not to, well, at a very early age. First, I'll preface this with, I tell my grandchildren, and I told my children this too. I say, okay, see you tomorrow. Oh, you know what? And they say, what? And I say, well, I love myself, And their eyes roll, and they giggle and everything, and, and now we say it all the time. How many times were you told to love yourself? Now,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
buy that internally instead of you should do better, you only got a B instead of an A.
Yeah.
You took a test, you failed or you passed. No, that's not what the test is about. It's to find out where you are, what else it is that you need to learn. Okay? It's not about passing or failing, but we make things, and it boils down to life or death. I mean, when everybody jeers and mocks you for being a dunce, so to speak, okay? This is where the negative talk sets in. It starts at an early age. Instead of saying, well, I'm smart, I just didn't do so well on this test. If I have it firmly inside me that I love myself, I'm not going to continually do things to hurt myself. Do you do things to hurt people that you love?
Mhm.
You see, why don't you count yourself among them?
Yeah.
Okay? It's like, if I love myself, I'm going to do things that make me feel good. All right? Like, I'm now on vacation visiting my grandchildren.
Bingo. Bingo. I'm going to do things that make me feel good.
Yes. Why would I do things to hurt myself if I didn't like myself or didn't like aspects of myself? And here's where it comes from. You need to dress up to do this. Go back in there and comb your hair. Go back and brush your teeth. It's like, if you loved yourself, most of that would be done. But because we're not trained that way, we're trained to look at the negative side of things. You're not going to school looking like that. Instead of saying, if it was me, I might consider, putting on a shirt that's not got so many holes in it, But it's your body, it's up to you. If that's what rings your bell. I noticed in the South here, my youngest, my granddaughter, no, let me go back even further than that, was my daughter. And she would wear one striped sock on one side and one polka dot on the other, and she'd have some plaid shirt on and a pink something else. And oh my God, it was so colorful and beautiful. And we let her dress herself. And she would go to school, and nobody said a word at that age. Everybody just accepted this is how she dresses. She's 5, 6 years old, and everybody loved it. When we get older, we begin to criticize things like this. Oh, this doesn't match. It should look like that. Mm-hmm. Madison Avenue steps in, tells you how you should act, how you should dress, how you should smell, how you should think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where and when did you decide to give away your sovereignty, your individual? What?
So evidently, a lot of people that feel powerless, you feel that that's been lost when they were, because of a past event, a father divorcing the mom and not, what I'm saying?
Those things certainly play into it, but it's an entire lifestyle. It's starting with you shouldn't, you should, you're supposed to, you have to, you can't.
Yeah.
Like telling the child when they've done something that, maybe they spilled their milk and they're punished for it. Okay. Yeah. Instead of saying, hey, look, I gave you the same size glass that I used, but notice your fingers are way smaller than mine. It might take 2 of your hands to do this. Or you know what? I made a mistake. I gave you the same size glass that fits my hand. I need to give you a glass that fits your hand. And then you could pick it up like I do, which is what they're trying to do to be like you. And they're being punished for it. Is that bizarre? Okay.
Yes.
Now, if you could imagine what kind of ideology goes on in their mind every time they're doing something, if there's a fear of being punished, i.e., this idea of right, wrong, good, bad.
They're never good enough.
Right. Bingo. Again, I like that word, bingo. So they're never good enough. Where do you go with that? Instead of, well, you just hit on something really cool. It's like self-esteem, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And you say, I am that I am. It's Christ's word, okay? Jesus' words, I am that I am. I am. Well, you notice Muhammad Ali didn't say, I am the second greatest. Right?
Yeah.
He came out and he's, I am the greatest. Now, people say, oh, that's egotistical. No, it isn't. I am that I am is a powerful place to be. It is knowing who you are, knowing your power inside and using it. I am better than is egotistical.
Yeah.
Or you are less than is egotistical.
Okay.
But I am a perfect expression, if you will say, of God in this universe, or I am just a perfect expression in this universe. I am. That's it. Now, having that is, to me, an expression of loving oneself. And it's impenetrable. Now, remember, I was remodeling a house, and the little boy came in. He was about 3, and his mother was going, why did you do that? You spilled this. That was stupid. She goes, you're stupid. And he looked at her, and he shook his little fist, and he goes, I'm smart. And I go, yeah, that little guy got it, you know. He addressed the right problem. He didn't care. He spilled the milk or whatever he did, you know. He just acknowledged to himself he was smart. And she was smart enough at that moment to realize what she was doing and stopped saying it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I find that for me, I had heard a little line one time that repetition is the mother of skill. So if I did something often enough, it became routine, it became a habit, it became a belief.
Yeah.
And then
that's your unconscious mind.
Yeah.
See, it needs a habit, it needs repetition to create a habit. You know, it's advertisement 101. Okay, you hear it so many times, you'll believe it. They don't even bother whether it's the truth or not. You hear it so many times, the unconscious mind accepts it. It's a difficult thing. Like, oh, here's another one that just, oh boy, I jumped out of my chair. I was visiting a friend in the hospital, and one of her friends came in with her little girl. It was about 3 or 4. Now, what are little kids' fingers for? To push buttons, right? You go into a hospital room. There are buttons and bells and everywhere, right? So she's the little girl. She's just marveling. She can't wait to push buttons. And her mother's going, that's bad. Don't do that. That's bad. Don't do that. You're being bad. This is a bad girl. And then she puts her on her lap and says, remember the time you did this and that was bad? And she just kept saying the word bad. I finally lost it. And I said, you tell your mama that you are good, that you are the best thing that ever happened to her. And you know who you are. And her mother looked at me, picked her up, and left.
Oh.
Wow.
I like to think that, well, I spoke my truth. I don't know if it's the truth, but I spoke my truth for the moment. I thought, this woman is training her little girl to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the attention she's getting. Here's a precept, and we'll probably talk about this a lot, but it speaks to what is love, okay? Love is an outward centrifugal force. That's the most common denominator that I've ever heard that is the definition of love. It's an outward centrifugal force. So if I came up and poked you in the nose, that's love.
Yeah.
If I came up and hugged you, that's love. I even spoke to you now, this is love. If I did absolutely nothing, there's no love. Okay? So now the love of the child to the mother, because she is expressing her love by calling her bad, becomes how she's got love wired. What do you think is going to happen to this gal when she grows up and driving her own car and going out and doing things? She's going to do things to be bad because that's how love is defined between her and her mother. Now, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, but I do work with people almost every day, and I see these things all the time.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary how it happens. And it's I'm going to say it for what it is. It's mindless.
Yeah.
We need to become mindful.
Mindful, yes, of course.
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, when something like that happens, and since we're so trained, how are we going to get out of it? Well, I have a simple way you can do that. I'll share it with you now. As soon as you do something like that, immediately forgive yourself and adjust it. Don't let it go by and say you'll take care of it later. And this, like if I say, oh, Roger, God, you're stupid, I say, oh, excuse me, I forgive myself, Roger. I didn't agree with what you just said. It doesn't mean you're stupid.
Yeah.
You see? That's some past program that I've got.
Yeah.
So I say, no, this was me not agreeing with you. Okay? So let me express my opinion. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Just like the one with the child and the milk. One destroys the self-esteem and the other builds it. And the message is the same. Let's be careful not to spill the milk.
Yeah, as an adult, I'm catching myself at times, for myself, I mean, for perfect, right? And I'll say something to somebody and I'll walk away and I'll go, oh, I'll just self-talk to myself and say, please retract that. That wasn't good for that person, nor was it for me.
Yeah. And that gives them license to do the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, hold on, I'm on the wrong track. Let me back up and start over again.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like I set this in as a default button. And here's what you can do. Get in front of a mirror and look into your third eye. But only pay attention to your heart. Pay attention to how your whole body's feeling, your heart, the seed of your existence. Okay? And say, I forgive myself for 30 minutes. And then say, let's cap this. I love myself for 30 minutes and do nothing else. Just look at your third eye. If you cry, if you laugh, no matter what you do, don't change the words. Keep saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what will happen is you start to have that as a default button. And when you forgive yourself, well, I'll give you a great example. I worked with a young man who had broken his wrist. It was broken for 2 years when I met him. And they had a battery in his cast to try to, get the electricity to his arm or whatever they were trying to do to get his arm to heal. So I talked to them. I said, well, how did this happen anyway? So I got in a fight with my brother and I punched him in the jaw and broke his jaw. At the same time, I broke my wrist. And I go, well, how are you two getting along? He goes, great, we love each other. It was just a dumb thing. We got all excited about something. We are best of friends. I go, well, did he forgive you? He goes, yeah. I go, did you forgive him? He goes, yeah. I go, well, did you forgive yourself? He said, oh, I never thought about that, He never forgave himself for hitting his brother so hard. So I took him through this process. I had him do that in the mirror. 2 weeks later, he went to have his cast changed and they took it off. Can you heal yourself by loving yourself? Can you stop this toxic conversation that we have about pain, misery, and despair and being wrong and not being good enough? That's the toxicity. Yeah, Shobha.
Yeah, yeah. I have it just reminded me of the story. I forget her name. There was this young girl. Her face was very deformed, but she never saw it as that because her parents gave her a lot of positive reinforcement. But one day, somebody took a picture of her while she was in public and posted it all over the internet, saying, "Oh, look at this face," or something like that. And that devastated her because she never saw herself that way. But then she turned it around because she had this positive reinforcement and she started to go on stage and talk about positivity. She became a life coach. She became the face of I think, some modeling clothing or something like that. So you see how her self-talk just changed. Even that's something that is distributed on the internet worldwide. And she kind of overcame that and, kind of elevated herself above whatever negativity that was propagated. Yeah.
Yeah, that gave me goosebumps. That's the kind of story I'd like to hear. That's the stories we should be telling our children. That's how we can make them great.
Yeah.
There was another woman who took pictures, silhouettes of women's bodies, and she took them to other countries, and then specifically in Africa. And she would take these pictures and show it to the women and ask them which silhouette did they think was the most beautiful. Almost unanimously, they picked their own. Is that amazing?
Yeah.
So listen how toxic our world is. We have to dye our hair. We have to wear makeup. We have to have perfume on. We have to dress a certain way. For what reason again? Yeah, anything but who we are.
Yeah,
it's extraordinary. That's, you want to talk about toxic, boy, that to me is toxic. And what do these chemicals do to people in the long run? Who is in the hospital? Who's going to see the doctor the most? Who's wearing these chemicals the most? Who's doing these things the most? How is it affecting your physical body? Your skin is one of the biggest receptors organ in your body, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be putting anything on your skin that you cannot directly eat, because that's what you're doing. You're taking it into your body. You see, we look outside of us and say, oh, that person's wrong, that person's bad, this person should be deposed, that person should go away. And yet we are full of toxins.
Yeah.
So it's important to clean our own house first. Let's get this cleaned up. Then we don't have to tell anybody anything. Let's try being what it is that we wish to see.
Awesome.
Let's just do it, And
awesome.
Thumb says, then that's all I've got to say about that.